All right, Jordan. We are now 3 days removed, I guess, roundabout here from the LSU loss in Death Valley on Saturday night. And let's just kind of put our final thoughts on it and what we think it means for the Clemson program and what this Clemson team does moving forward. Like we mentioned heading into the game, either team that lost still had everything in front of them for the season. Partly because it's a non-con loss, right? It means nothing for your conference play. So Clemson is still 0-0 in the ACC. They still have everything in front of them when it comes to the college football playoff, because the only thing that they have to do, regardless of where they're ranked, is win the ACC, and they get an automatic bid to the college football playoff. I do think this team will be ranked high enough that they will make it. But again, obviously, Clemson dropped out of the top five after losing to number 9 ranked LSU. It was not at all how we thought the game was going to go. You mentioned your score prediction was 34-27. My score prediction was 31-28. So it wasn't very much better. It was slightly closer than yours. So I guess I get a W in that column for the week, but it wasn't very much closer. So for all of you out there, me and Jordan got a little competition going on this year with the score predictions. So we're gonna try to see who's closer on the score and try to make it a little bit of competitive, because sometimes picking these score predictions gets a little boring and it's kind of a guessing game, pretty much. So to make it fun for us, that's what we did. But just final thoughts on LSU, Jordan. What do you think overall, going back and watching the game? The major lowlights for the game, the major highlights for the game for you, and then we'll dive into what this team does going forward.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, starting with the offense, I think as disheartening as it was to watch that performance, I really do think they did leave a lot on the table. I mean, that's one of the things that, you can always look back and find things, but I really do think there were plays that were to be had, and there were plays to be made and they just missed it. I mean, listen, when you play a defense that aggressive, there were going to be opportunities, and we just didn't hit those spots. We had guys just execution errors at some points. Even the best ball that Cade threw the entire night was that deep ball to Wesco, and it was a well placed ball, and it just hit him in the chest. He didn't bring it in. That's your 5-star wide receiver.
You gotta have that one.
It was just that. You got to have that one. It was just that kind of night. And so, when you put those things into perspective, you think, okay, things can be better moving forward. Obviously, they will be, because you just flat out won't play a team as good as LSU more than likely the rest of the year, at least the rest of the regular season. But I think there were plays to be had. I think this is going to be it's going to be really good teach tape. It's probably not going to be a fun day, a fun week of game prep for the team in terms of or the film study, but. That's part of the game, and I think they are going to grow from this. That's one thing we have seen Cade Klubnik do, and what Dabo said today. We have seen Cade Klubnik respond to adversity. When these things, when a disappointing result hasn't deterred him. I definitely expect him to come out this week with renewed energy, and because he's kind of just the same guy every day, as they say. That's one thing to look forward to. Offensively, I think they're, just making the layups. That was the biggest thing that you didn't do. And, you probably could have had a better offensive output if you just hit the plays that were there. We can talk about Garrett Riley and the frustrations with, how he called the game at times, but it wasn't like everything he called was just, it wasn't a good call. He had the right calls for some of the things that LSU was doing, and they just didn't make those plays. So I think we saw a team that just, obviously they still have some gelling to do, and I think they were a little shell shocked. I think Cade was a little shell shocked not having Antonio Williams on the field. It's just. But you get, hey man, you've got other receivers. You gotta have a good rapport with them. You got to look their way. You got to understand that you can't. Your safety blanket can't be your only blanket, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, that's that's the thing. As a quarterback, he's going to have to. I mean, as a senior now, I mean, this is something he's got to learn it quick, because I mean, it just guys were getting open. There were guys getting open. Dude, Tyler Brown could have had a really good day on Saturday, if some of those simple plays were made.
I think he had a good day regard. I mean, he's a dude.
Yeah.
Like, if for anybody that forgot who Tyler Brown was, like, he was a dude in this game. OPH with the big catch across the middle, he looked great. Bentiker, a guy that we talked about going into the game, looked great when he got touches. So the guys are there. Cade just has to trust what he's seeing and make a decision. He's got to stop holding on to the ball too long. He's got to stop always trying to extend the play and run out of the pocket. Sometimes you just got to hit your hot routes, right? Sometimes you just got to hit that quick game, and that's how you kind of combat some of that pass rush. And that's what Clemson didn't do a great job of on Saturday, and it proved out with the lack of offensive production. But the plays were there. The receivers were open. So, I'm not going to sit here and say that Garrett Riley called this amazing game, but there were plays out there to be had that just were not executed. If you go back and really look at it. And Tyler Brown was open a lot. Olsen Pat Henry was open quite a bit. Bentiker was open. There were guys open that he just did not see. And a lot of that had to do with the pass rush. A lot of that had to do with he got hit a lot early, and I think he got sped up in his head, and he was no longer trusting his offensive line. After his first read, it just went from one read to panic.
Yep. And that was even on the interception that he threw.
Yeah.
Cole Turner was open. I mean, Cole Turner was breaking open down the field.
Yeah.
It was just a bad throw. It was just inaccurate. He just sailed it. Like those kind of plays. I mean, so when you had opportunities to take shots, which weren't many, either Cade didn't throw an accurate ball or the receiver didn't catch it.
Right.
And that's for an offense that you got to make those plays. If you're this offense that was as touted to be as good as they said it was, those are the plays that they got to make those more often than they don't, and they just Saturday they didn't. And that's a credit to LSU. Those DBs they played a pretty phenomenal football game. I thought they were obviously Mansour Delane was phenomenal. I mean, I think he gave a one catch all game. And he was just blanketing. I mean, he had some blanketing coverage on the guys he was lined up with. That they as a unit, that LSU secondary, they're certainly much improved, obviously, and getting Halsey back in the second half was a big deal for them. But hey, listen, there's only so many guys when you're sending 5-6 guys every play, those DBs can't cover everybody. I mean,
right.
There were plays to be had. Just by a numbers game, there were guys breaking open, but you just weren't hitting them.
Yeah, I mean, and they were blitzing for a big portion of the night and leaving those corners out on islands and not covering certain routes because you just didn't have enough personnel to cover the routes because you were sending everybody in a blitz, and Cade just didn't see those routes. He didn't see those receivers that were streaking open. He was too concerned with the rush, and they got home more often than not. And that was kind of their game plan. And then you saw in the second half, they were just mirroring Cade the entire second half. They were not going to let him escape the pocket and get any sort of positive yards. So that was the game plan for them in the second half. They were going to continue to bring pressure, and then they were going to have one guy just kind of spy Cade or mirror Cade the entire time. And every time he tried to escape the pocket, they came flying right in and caused him to either throw the ball away or make a bad decision downfield and throw into coverage.
Absolutely. So I mean, it was a really good game plan for them, by them, and obviously their guys executed really well. That freshman DJ Pickett, man, he's going to be special.
Yeah.
Listen, that's. As much as people got upset with Wade Woodaz, when he said it's not like we played a bunch of bums, he's right. Man, that LSU roster is extremely talented. I mean, and listen, you had opportunities. You had your opportunities. So I mean, you gotta understand that yes, you played a good team, but also it wasn't like there was nothing to be had, and you didn't have your opportunities to win that football game. So
yeah, I mean, and the other part of this, that obviously we need to talk about and get into is Clemson. They got to find a way to run the football. They have to commit to the run. I mean, the running production was just unacceptable. And Dabo hit on it in his interview, I think more than one time with, we just abandoned the run. And we can't do that. And it's just as bad as Cade played, and he did play bad, like not making any excuses for him. The offensive line played bad. But at a certain point, as an offensive play caller, you have to help your guys out who are struggling. You have to give them something. And when you become that one-dimensional, and when the opposing coach calls you predictable in the post-game press conference, it's all bad, man. Like you have zero chance for success when that becomes the reality. And it became the reality for Clemson on Saturday night against LSU. And they knew for a fact that Clemson was not going to run the ball. All they had to do was pin their ears back, come after Cade, confuse him, get him rushed, get him flustered, and Clemson wasn't going to be able to move the ball. And that's what they did over and over again for the entire second half of that game. So Clemson's got to figure out the running game. They have to. Whether that's Adam Randall, whether that's Eazy-E, whether that's Gideon Davison, whoever it is. I don't care who it is. They have to figure out a running game. Because otherwise you're going to get nowhere close. Because when you step up and you play another team that's comparable to LSU later in the season, whether that be, if Florida State ends up being a really good team, or if South Carolina ends up being a really good team, or you meet some team in the playoff, if you make it there, you're going to step up to another comparable team again, and they're going to be able to go athlete for athlete with you. So when that happens, what do? You have to be a balanced team. Otherwise, they're going to feast on you, much like they did Saturday night.
Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing. You got to dispel that that narrative. I mean, because I don't think you have an inferior roster to the teams that that you've struggled to beat. I mean, these SEC teams that you've struggled to beat in recent years. It's I don't think it's a talent problem. And so that's, but you can only say that so many times before it's like, okay, well, when are we actually going to realize that talent?
And I mean, the frustrating thing as a Clemson fan is like games like Saturday are games that you used to expect Clemson to win.
Yeah.
Now as a Clemson fan, you're like, can we even win those games anymore? Like that's a legitimate question now, and has been. And we just proved that point again on Saturday night by losing to LSU. The national narrative out there is Clemson can't win these big games anymore. Right now, from my vantage point, that's true. Until proven otherwise, they can't win these big games anymore. I think they're talented enough. I think they have the pieces to, but they've yet to prove on the field versus comparable talent that they can get a win. So that's fair criticism of the Clemson Tigers. And that's criticism they will carry throughout most, if not all, of this season, because no one's going to care if you go out there and put up 60 against Troy. No one's going to care how many ACC teams you beat, because we all know the national narrative around the ACC. All they're going to talk about is, well, when Clemson finally plays a real team, they're going to lose. That's going to be the narrative. And to be completely honest, at this point, it's fair.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say? I mean, there's not really there's not anything that you can say at this point. You have to, at a certain point, you got to go actually win it, win one of these football games.
Yeah.
And so, we'll see kind of what happens. Obviously, you're not going to get an opportunity to do that in your ACC slate. Maybe if South Carolina, proves to be good, maybe that's that if you win that football game, that can be a feather in your cap. But this team is going to have to deal with a lot of criticism, a lot of doubt, and I think rightfully so. Because they were for once touted as a media darling, and they were they did have a lot of hype heading into the season. And so when you put out a performance like that, you didn't lose by 50 points, but I mean, it wasn't impressive by any means the way you lost, and doesn't give you a whole lot of reason, especially if I'm an outside viewer, a whole lot of reason to think, okay, this team is truly a national title contender, unless LSU was just that good. And so, that's if this team is going to, be what we think they have the potential to be, it's going to come, it's going to come with all of those things and all of those narratives and all of that pushback. And so they're going to have to deal with it. You just shut up and win football games. I guess that's a good mantra for what the rest of the season is. Just shut up and win football games, because there's not really much you can do about it. Anything else.
At this point, you can't control the narrative anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. People are going to say what they're going to say. They're going to think what they're going to think. I like that. Just shut up and win football games. Don't talk. We shouldn't be anything. Just shut up and win football games. But, to kind of wrap things up on the LSU, let's talk about the positive side of the ball, and that's this Clemson defense, Jordan. I think they are vastly improved. I know there's some fans out there that thinks the defense played poor at times, and, they didn't play a perfect game by any means. But this offense that they held to 17 points, I think that's a much bigger deal than people think it is in the moment, because of how painful the loss was. This defense has improved quite a bit from last year. If this was a Wes Goodwin coach defense, no offense to Wes Goodwin, but we would have lost by 30 because the second half would have gotten away from us. It would have. It would have turned into the Georgia game. It just would have. Our defense wouldn't have been able to get off the field. Our offense still wouldn't have been able to get going. And eventually the attrition would have wore down, and LSU would have scored points late. They didn't. Our defense fought for 37 minutes on that field on Saturday night, and they played a hell of a game. So I'm not saying they played perfect, but props to the defense, because they did play a hell of a game on Saturday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was a change in what we probably would have expected from this defense last year, significantly. I mean, I thought they would give up at least 27. So that's a good thing. Yeah, we can talk about the controversial touchdown non-catch thing, but regardless, I think the statistically the proof was in the pudding in terms of this defense has significantly improved, and they obviously are only going to get better throughout the course of the season, you would think. So I think, listen, I think that was like Dabo said, that was the one thing that passed the eye test. I think they were flying to the football, wasn't perfect. The LSU got them on it, and they got gamed a little bit, but they bowed up and on multiple red zone opportunities they were hitting. There was just a lot more physicality. Yeah, you missed tackles. Hey, listen, we knew that there were going to be some missed tackles, but it wasn't to the degree that we saw last year, and I think that's a credit to how far they've come. I mean, I think you're going to expect to miss some tackles in a week 1 game. LSU missed some tackles. It happens.
Sometimes a really good athlete just gets you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not going to make every tackle. But it was much improved from a tackling standpoint. You didn't see like the, just over and over again poor angles like we saw last year, or people not rallying to the ball like we saw last year. Like, you didn't see any of that in this game. LSU, they got their shots in, but we knew that going into the game. We said that going into the game, that this LSU offense they were going to get theirs at certain points in time in the game, and they did. But for the most part, this defense shut down that LSU offense. And that's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And
they, you could talk about the Clemson pass rush, and I know a lot of people were like, "Wow, we didn't see, the Clemson defensive line pressuring Nussmeier like Cade got pressured." I think that had a lot more to do with their play calling and them just not allowing Clemson the time to get home than it had to do with Clemson's ability to get home. I think they expected Clemson to get home against Garrett Nussmeier, and that's why they had a lot of that quick game and all that stuff built in so that he wasn't just back there by himself fighting for his life against the Clemson defensive line. Their offensive coordinator put their quarterback in a much better position than our offensive coordinator put our quarterback in.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Garrett Nussmeier completed 28 passes on Saturday night. 15 of them were behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, I think that's over half. I mean, I think that tells you a lot about how much respect LSU had for Clemson's defensive line. And it was a great game plan because, I mean, it made them, they were a lot more creative in creating easy yardage and making sure, getting easy completions. And Garrett was just flat out, he just looked like the more seasoned quarterback. I mean,
he did. Yeah. He looked way more poised. The moment was not too big for him. And that was a crazy atmosphere. That was not easy to walk in there and play if you're LSU. But, he stayed poised. He trusted his game plan. And they just had a better game plan, and they executed it better.
Yeah.
And they produced just enough offense to win the game. And that's what your great players got to do. So, hats off to LSU. Congratulations on the win. But at this point, Jordan, we got to turn the page from this LSU. We could beat a dead horse to death. We could talk about all the mistakes and the issues and how it didn't go how we thought it was going to go. But at the end of the day, you got to move forward. You got another game to play, and you got to look forward to the rest of the season. This game's behind you. It sucks that you lost, but as you put it before, shut up and go win football games.